fellow accounting learners. In the interest of continuous improvement, I am providing you with this solution illustration. It could either be an alternative to our conference calls or a supplement to our conference calls. My sense is that the conference calls have not been as beneficial as they could be. So again, my hope is that this solution illustration will be a value-added resource. I selected a problem similar to one of those assigned, specifically exercise 311. However, this illustration is based on exercise 311B. So the concepts are the same. However, the specific numbers or values that are being used are different. Chapter 3, as you recall, has to do with process costing. And when you are dealing with homogeneous or similar products going through the production process, you have to use a method for averaging the cost. The one that is emphasized in Chapter 3 is called weighted average. There is another called FIFO, which I think you can find in the appendix to the chapter. And there's even a third, which is not illustrated at all, called LIFO. We're going to be using weighted average, which essentially means we're going to average cost and not pay attention to the period in which a particular cost was incurred. There are 4 steps that are illustrated in your book. In my thinking, there are really 5. However, I will walk you through the steps as they are illustrated in your textbook. The first thing you want to be focusing on will be your production data. And for the production data, we are told that the company began the period with 27 units that are being worked on. And those 27,000 units have all of the material added at the beginning of the process. So whatever material they needed to complete those units have already been added to those units. On the other hand, the conversion cost, which is the sum of your direct labor and overhead, only 1/10 or 10% of that cost has already been added to those units. We're also told that there were 54,000 units transferred out, either to finished goods or to another department. Don't need to know that. We simply know that those units were completed. We're also told that they started 60,000 units during the month of February. At the end, there were 33,000 units still being worked on, and those units were 1/5 or 20% complete, again with respect to conversion cost. On the left, you have your manufacturing cost. You will notice that at the beginning of the month, the work in process account for this department or this phase of the process had $36,000 of materials and $4,175 of conversion costs. So the total beginning balance is the sum of those two, which is $40,175. They added materials during the month, $157,140. They added direct labor during the month, $32,780, and they added overhead during the month, $64,853. Again, the labor and the overhead will comprise our conversion cost. So let's begin with the production cost report. Step 1, you're going to determine how many units, physical units, you have to account for, and then account for them. We were given 27,000 units at the beginning of the month, and then they started 60,000 units into production, so a total of 87,000 units have to be accounted for. So the question is, where are they? At this phase of your learning regarding managerial accounting, we are making it relatively simple, and we're saying those units will be in one of two phases. They will either be completed or they will be in process. Factors such as spoilage, theft are real-world considerations. However, at this point, we're not going to be factoring those into our problems. And so we account for the 87,000 units, noting that 54,000 were completed or transferred out. We were told that in the problem. And we were also told that 33,000 units were in work in process, which means they were not finished. There are times when you will not be given all of the numbers, but you can most likely see a relationship among these values. For example, if you are told that there are 87,000 units to be accounted for and 33,000 units are still there at the end of the period, the month, then you will be able to find the units completed by subtracting the units that are still being worked on from the total number of units. However, in this case, as I said, we were given all the numbers. So that's step one. We accounted for the units, and now we go into step two. Step two, we focus on equivalent units. And the easiest way to think of equivalent units would be in an academic setting. We have full-time students and we have part-time students. However, we can calculate an equivalent full-time student. So let's use an illustration. Let's say we had 3 persons who are full-time, full-time being defined as taking 12 credits and part-time less than 12. Let's say we had a total of 2 persons who are part-time, and those 2 persons are taking 6 credits, so they're taking half of what a full load would be. So we have a total of 5 persons, 3 full-time, 2 part-time, and the question is, how many full-time equivalent students do we have? So it would be 3 full-time plus 2 half-time, which would be equal to 1, and so there will be 4 full-time equivalent students. The same concept is applied here. So let's look at the calculation, the process. We have 54,000 units that were completed. Those are 100% complete with regards to materials. So they are equivalent to 54,000 units, 100%. They are 100% complete with regards to conversion. So that gives us 54,000 equivalent units. However, for the work in process, we have 33,000 units, but they're only 20% complete. Recall that we were told 1/5 complete, 20%. And so 33,000 units would be the equivalent number for materials. Why? Because 100% of the material was added during the month of February. However, with regards to conversion cost, we would take 20% of 33,000 because only 20% of the conversion cost has been added. So 33,000 incomplete units would be equivalent to 20% or 6,600 equivalent units. You then add the 54,000 and the 33,000. The total equivalent units for direct materials would be 87,000, and the total equivalent units for conversion would be 54,000 plus 6,600, giving you a total of 60,600. We would have completed steps 1 and 2. Step 3 is where you calculate your cost per equivalent unit. And so what we do here is we take the total direct materials, which would be the beginning direct materials, plus the materials added during the month. So we started out with 36. We added 157 and 140, so we have 193,140. So that's your total direct materials. We divide that total by the equivalent units of 87 and we get $2.22. This means for every unit of raw materials, the cost is $2.22 per equivalent unit. We do a similar calculation for the conversion cost. We take the beginning amount for conversion cost. Remember that was given to us. They added 32,780 and 64,853. And so the total is 101,808. We take the 101,808, which is your total conversion cost for the month of February, and we divide that by the equivalent units for conversion cost, and that gives us a total of $1.68. The sum of these two, the $2.22 plus the $1.68, gives us the total cost per equivalent unit of $3.90. So for every unit that we complete, that would be the cost that is assigned to the completed units. And so now we have to account for the cost. And so for the cost to be accounted for, we add the beginning balance in the work in process plus the total cost added during the month. And so we have to account for $294,948. Where is that money? To determine that answer, which is the final step, step 4, we're going to first of all assign the cost to the 54,000 units that were completed. Recall, they completed 54,000 units. The total cost per equivalent unit is $3.90. And so we multiply 54,000 by $3.90, and that gives us 210,600. The work in process at the end of February, we had 33,000 units, and so we multiply the 33,000 by $2.22 because that is the cost per equivalent unit for the materials, and that will give you 73,260. Similarly, we multiply the equivalent unit for conversion cost, which is 6,600. Recall from our step 2 calculation. So we have 6,600. And we determine that the cost per equivalent unit for conversion is $1.68. And so we take 6,600 multiplied by $1.68 and we get $11,088. When you add the materials and the conversion cost, the ending balance in your work in process account is $84,348. Notice that this total cost accounted for of $294,948 is equal to the cost to be accounted for of $294,948. Sometimes rounding may be required when you're calculating the cost per equivalent unit, and so the reconciliation may not be 100% precise. In other words, you'll have to round your numbers, but in this example it worked out nicely. That completes the problem. However, note that this total of $210,500, which is the cost for the completed units, would either go into another work in process account in another department. Maybe this is where they produce the item and then it goes over to packaging, or it could go over to quality control, or it could go over to finished goods. If it goes over to another work in process account, that means additional costs will be added. If, of course, it goes to finished goods, then it would be representing completed units that are now ready to be sold. This total of $84,348 is the ending balance in your work in process account, which will become your beginning balance for the next period. I hope these 15 minutes proved to be useful.